How's it going? All right, I'm Skinny. This is Skinny Skates, and I'm going to do a quick review on the EggZilla 2 from Heroin Skateboards. So the first thing that I'm going to get onto is that a lot of times when you would see the listings for these, even still, I mean, they're pretty much dried up anywhere except for eBay, but even still on the eBay listings, a lot of times you'll see incorrect measurements for them. They are not 31.5 inches long. They are 30.65 or 625, 30.625 inches long. They've only got a wheelbase of 14.125 inches, and at the center, at their widest point, they are 14.25 inches wide. So it's actually wider at the center than it actually has a longer, yeah, it's wider at the center than it is, how would you say that? The wheelbase is shorter than the board is wide. There you go. I think that works. All right. Anyway, actually riding this skateboard, like, surprisingly enough, I can do most of the flip tricks that I have, in my pocket, but a few of them I can't seem to find the right kind of foot position for them. I mean, it usually requires significant modification of how I usually would do my normal trick on a normal skateboard. One nice kind of thing actually is that, because of the overall short length, doing tricks that like rotate, like a shove it of any kind, like a 360 flip or something like that, shockingly enough, it actually spins quite well. And once you get used to, how much, honestly, effort it takes to get the board to flip over, flip tricks really aren't all that ridiculously difficult. One thing that you definitely notice riding this board is overall fatigue. Riding this for long periods of time, you get tired a lot quicker. It weighs, I believe, over 6 pounds at this time right now. I'm not sure. I'm going to show a quick B-roll shot of it sitting on a scale. I know that the deck alone weighs almost 4 pounds, I believe, was what I saw Foss say on a podcast at some point. So, I mean, it's a heavy board. Just chucking the thing around, especially trying to do like flip tricks, even lifting the nose up and just turning it over and over. If you're riding, I'm not a transition rider by any means. I grew up skating a garage and, well, mostly a garage because I live in Minnesota. So 9 months out of the year, at least, it's mostly garage skating if you can't get to a skate park of some kind, and a driveway. So transition, any major injury that I've ever had in skateboarding has always come from me being on an incline of some kind. So I usually just try to avoid them for the most part. I can drop in if it's something that's 4 feet or less. I can do some pretty basic tricks on it, but if it gets beyond 5 feet or higher, I start getting real nervous to even touch coping. So as far as transition riding, I can't speak to a whole lot for how this works out for people. There's a lot of footage online of people riding a lot of transition with these, but a lot less of people doing flip tricks with them. So that's kind of more what I do. Is I like to, just flat ground flip trick. That's kind of my thing. So this is a lot of fun to do that kind of stuff on. One of the first times I ever really took it to a skate park of any kind, I'd already been kind of practicing with it, at least in the garage here some. So I got it out to a skate park, and I believe that I pulled out a more typical skateboard to start with. Got in, did a couple of tricks, but I went out to my truck and swapped boards and went to grab this, and I got into the skate park and noticed that everybody kind of got quiet. It was almost like lion walking up to the water hole in the safari or something. So everybody kind of just stopped what they were doing and kind of stared like, what kind of skate? Some people, I think, did actually know what it was. Most people had no idea of its existence overall, so people were just kind of dumbfounded. One guy asked if it was some kind of a custom one-off, like if I made this myself, actually. Most people will kind of ask, in general, like, what's the point or what's the purpose of something so wide, so big, so heavy? It's fun. So when I rolled out into the center of the park and everybody was kind of quiet initially, all I did was just popped off a kickflip, really, and got a few what the 4-letter words. So as you can see, I mean, I've got the one here that I've actually got set up to skate. 2 extras. I was thinking that at least one of them will probably end up as wall art, and the other I'm probably going to skate. Honestly, they're a lot of fun. This one's taken a couple of hits, a couple of times it's gotten away from me and smashed it into something, but so far none of the layers are splitting. Heroin makes a pretty good board. Baker Street and Snow, I believe, is the true manufacturer stamper of the skateboards, but so far it's holding up super well. It's done a bang-up job of being a lot of fun. So all right, so the current setup actually that I've got on this board right now, I've got Indy 215s. They're not the hollow Indy 215s. They're just the straight Indy. I don't know if they make the hollows in the 215s or not, I suppose. I know they make hollow aces in the 80s. The Slappy, I think, is making something now that's in 10 inches. There's always all the, well, Thunder actually came out with, I think, their 181, the 10-inch truck. Anyway, so these are the non-hollow indie trucks. I've got half-inch, well, they're sort of half-inch risers. They're those kind of slanted ones. So they hide your kingpin a little bit more, but they're a half-inch at the front and quarter-inch at the back. So snot rails, the Dragon 54 millimeter. No, I'm sorry, these are the 55 millimeter. So these are the, I think, V4 shape. So they curve inwards towards the bearing. I like the shape, actually. They've got a little bit bigger of a contact patch than the V1 Dragons, but overall, these roll super smooth. They're a good wheel. Because of the risers and because I skate my trucks pretty tight, I figured that maybe the bigger wheel could go on this. I'm also kind of weird about. So when I was a kid, I lived out in the middle of nowhere. I was skateboarding one day, and I got a new set of wheels. So I got home. I was all pumped up to put my new wheels on. I stripped off my old wheels, and my axle thread was too banged up to actually put on my new wheels. So I was without a skateboard for a couple of days because of that. So I've always just had that paranoia in the back of my head of messing up my axle threads too much. That's not really an issue on this. There's really no way that you can get the axle thread to contact because of the angle of everything. It's really more of board to wheel. So even if it does kind of land as primo as it possibly can, it still probably is not going to hit the axle thread. You'd have to have some kind of like an uneven surface to actually come in and bypass the whole board itself and just hit straight onto the axle thread. But otherwise, a lot of times I kind of, as you can probably see, I have a lot of nano cubics and wide boys. I've tried a couple of different different wheels on this. Overall, the wheel setup doesn't really make that huge of a difference. It rolls like a big magic carpet. You can't see the wheels underneath you, no matter which ones you use. I think that even if I had 11-inch trucks, I probably still couldn't see the wheels because over the trucks themselves, I believe that it's about 12 inches. I'll show right here probably too some B-roll of a measuring tape sitting over the trucks to see how wide it is at the trucks themselves. But even these 10-inch trucks, the 10-inch Indies, Indy 215s, look dwarfed on this board. They look tiny. So, yeah, that's overall the setup. But, all right, another thing to actually maybe note is that the nose and tail are, not only is the concave on the nose and tail pretty mellow, they feel at least very short. Because of the board length overall is only that 30.625 inches long, the nose and tail are, because it's symmetrical either way, nose and tail are the same. There is no true nose or tail. But they're pretty short. So that's another, again, like foot position for flip tricks kind of a thing to keep in mind. All right. I don't really know, I guess. I mean, what else to say? What else is there to say about this behemoth of a silly boy skateboard? But yeah, it's, like I said, probably 15 times by now already. It's a lot of fun. It's hilarious a lot of times to pull their skateboard out, especially when it's somebody's first time seeing it. They're at least curious about it. It usually gets a good laugh out of people. That's about good, I think, maybe. Heroin, skateboards, EggZilla too. All right. So I don't actually ever put this on the rack. It's kind of big. It falls off the rack, so I'll put it back on the hook. Hey, you made it really far into this video, so like, since you're already here, maybe you could just go a little bit further and maybe hit the subscribe button, because subscribing helps out, just like when you're at the grocery store and you get all your groceries put away, and you can just walk another 50 feet, just put away your groceries cart, it really, really helps people out. So, maybe you could just, put away your grocery cart and subscribe to Skinny Skates.